Imagine waking up in a world engineered to destroy you, not kill you, destroy you. A place where war never ends, where monsters are designed to exploit your deepest fears, where hope was removed from the code entirely. Your mind knows something is wrong. Every instinct screams that reality shouldn't feel this cruel, but there's no escape. There never was. The machines didn't stumble into this design, they chose it. Before the Matrix that Neo inherited, before the simulation we know, there was a version so brutal that the machines themselves decided it couldn't exist. They wiped it from the system, but traces of it survived. And what those traces reveal changes everything.
Welcome to Nightmare Matrix.
To understand why the Nightmare Matrix collapsed, you need to understand what came before it. The Matrix that Neo wakes up in, the simulation set in 1999, wasn't the first attempt. It wasn't even the second. Before that world existed, the machines built two prototypes, two failed experiments, and the first one was designed to be heaven. The architect, the program responsible for creating the Matrix, built the original simulation as a paradise, a perfect human world. No disease, no war, no suffering of any kind. Every moment was designed for peace and contentment. It was, in his own words, a masterpiece.
The first Matrix I designed was quite naturally perfect. It was a work of art, flawless, sublime, a triumph equaled only by its monumental failure.
And fail it did, spectacularly. Human minds rejected the simulation entirely. They couldn't accept a world without struggle. Something in our nature refused to believe that perfection could be real. And because the mind and body are connected in the Matrix, when humans rejected the program, their bodies rejected it too.
It was a disaster. No one would accept the program. Entire crops were lost.
Entire crops, meaning entire fields of human beings connected to the power plant, died because their minds simply refused to live in paradise. Think about that for a moment. Humanity was offered a world without pain, and we rejected it so completely that it killed us. The architect's response to this failure would define everything that came next, and what he built to replace paradise would make it look like a mercy.
Thus I redesigned it, based on your history, to more accurately reflect the varying grotesqueries of your nature.
Now, here's what most people miss about the architect. He didn't simply miscalculate with paradise. He was humiliated. This is a program that describes him as the father of the Matrix, a being of pure mathematical precision. And his flawless creation, his work of art, was rejected by creatures he considered fundamentally inferior. The architect's ego couldn't process that failure. So his next design wasn't an attempt at balance. It wasn't a compromise. It was punishment.
Thus I redesigned it, based on your history, to more accurately reflect the varying grotesqueries of your nature.
Listen to that word, grotesqueries, not flaws, not imperfections, grotesqueries. The architect looked at humanity's rejection of paradise and concluded that we weren't just imperfect, we were monstrous. And if humans wanted to reject heaven, he would build them something else entirely, a world that reflected exactly what he believed we deserved. The architect studied human history, every war, every atrocity, every empire built on blood, and every civilization that collapsed under its own cruelty. He took all of it and used it as the foundation for the second Matrix. The Nightmare Matrix was a world locked in permanent conflict. Dictatorships rose and fell in endless cycles. Violence wasn't an event, it was the weather. And according to certain philosophers the architect had studied, this was exactly what humans needed. They needed suffering because it gave life meaning. But the architect didn't stop at history. He added something else. You're not just living through war in this simulation, you're being hunted. The monsters in the Nightmare Matrix aren't symbols, they're not metaphors, they're programs, designed with one purpose: to find your deepest fear and use it against you. The constant suffering was brutal, but what the architect put inside the Nightmare Matrix is where things get truly disturbing. You see, the architect designed the program around humanity's oldest fears, the creatures that have haunted our stories since we first learned to speak: vampires, werewolves, ghosts, demons, aliens. Every nightmare you've ever had was set loose in the simulation. These weren't glitches in the system, they were features.
Every story you've ever heard about vampires, werewolves, or aliens is the system assimilating some program that's doing something they're not supposed to be doing.
Pay attention to what the Oracle is saying. She's talking about the current Matrix, the one set in 1999. But those programs didn't originate there. They came from the nightmare version. They were designed to torment humans, to make sure that no matter where you ran, no matter where you hid, something was always hunting you. And these weren't simple creatures. The vampire programs fed on the code contained in human blood. They could scale any surface, move faster than the eye could track, and shrug off damage that would destroy most exiles. Wooden stakes were one of the only kill codes that worked against them. The werewolf programs, called lupines, hunted in packs. They coordinated, they surrounded, and the only way to stop them was silver, a kill code embedded in their design from the beginning. Then there were the ghost programs called phantoms. These are the scariest of them all. You couldn't hit them, you couldn't grab them, you couldn't fight what you couldn't touch. All you could do was watch them pass through walls and wonder when they'd decide to solidify their hand inside your chest. If the monsters sound terrifying on their own, consider this: they weren't random. They were tailored to each human individually. Let's break it down. You see, the system studied each human connected to it. It analyzed their memories, their reactions, their unconscious responses, and then it identified exactly what they feared most. Not afraid of vampires? Fine. The system would find what did terrify you. Heights, drowning, the dark, losing someone you love, watching yourself become something unrecognizable. Whatever it was, the architect would find it, and once he found it, he would simulate it. Not once, not twice, endlessly. Imagine your worst fear, the one buried so deep you've never spoken it out loud. Now imagine living it every single day, waking up to it, falling asleep inside it, knowing that tomorrow will be exactly the same, because the system has already learned that this is what breaks you. The goal wasn't just suffering, it was complete psychological annihilation. Hope wasn't removed from the nightmare matrix by accident. It was deleted on purpose. Peace wasn't difficult to find. It didn't exist. And sanity? Sanity was just another thing the system learned to take from you. So here's the part that nobody expects. The nightmare matrix, with all its wars, all its monsters, all its personalized horrors, collapsed eventually. The architect's perfect hell failed just like his perfect heaven. The reason comes down to something Agent Smith understood better than the architect himself.
Human beings define their reality through misery and suffering. So the perfect world was a dream that your primitive cerebrum kept trying to wake up from.
Smith was explaining why paradise failed. Humans rejected perfection because it didn't feel real, but the same principle worked in reverse. Too much suffering felt just as artificial as none at all. When you're trapped in a nightmare in real life, eventually your brain recognizes that something is wrong. The horror becomes so extreme, so relentless, that a part of you knows it cannot be reality, and that recognition pulls you awake. That's exactly what happened in the nightmare matrix. Humans began waking up, not because they found an exit, because the suffering was so overwhelming that their minds simply refused to accept it as real.
However, I was again frustrated by failure.
The architect built hell, but hell without even the possibility of relief isn't terrifying, it's exhausting, and exhaustion eventually leads to disbelief. Here's a question worth considering. The architect is supposed to be a genius, so did the nightmare matrix fail because he misunderstood humanity, or did it fail because he understood us a little too well? The architect understood that humans needed suffering. He wasn't wrong about that. Paradise proved it. But he only got half the equation. Humans don't just need pain. We need pain that means something, struggle with a purpose, suffering that could, at some point, come to an end. The possibility, even if it's distant, that things might get better. The nightmare matrix offered none of that. There was no light at the end of the tunnel because there was no tunnel, just darkness, forever, in every direction.
Hope. It is the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of your greatest strength and your greatest weakness.
Listen to how he describes hope, a delusion, a weakness. The architect saw hope as a flaw in human programming, something to be eliminated, not understood. And that's exactly why his creation collapsed. He designed a simulation where hope was impossible. But without hope, suffering doesn't feel like suffering anymore. It just feels like noise, static. Something so constant and so meaningless that the mind eventually tunes it out entirely. And once that happens, the illusion breaks. The architect needed help. And the answer came from somewhere he never expected. The Nightmare Matrix was deleted from the system, but not everything inside it was destroyed. Some things survived, and what they became would shape the Matrix for centuries to come. Now, the architect didn't design the Matrix from nothing. He studied humanity, our history, our philosophy, and somewhere in that research, he found the Stoics. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, wrote extensively about suffering. He believed that hardship was not just inevitable, but necessary, that a life without struggle produced weak, hollow people. One of his most famous observations: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The architect read this and drew a conclusion. If humans rejected paradise because perfection felt imaginary, then perhaps extreme suffering would feel more real, more grounded, more believable. So he gave them maximum suffering, and he expected them to finally accept their reality. But the architect misread the Stoics completely. Seneca never said suffering alone builds character. He said overcoming suffering does. The struggle has to lead somewhere. The pain has to mean something. A person who endures tragedy and grows from it becomes stronger. A person who endures tragedy with no possibility of growth just breaks. The Stoics believed adversity reveals who we are, but the architect stripped all of that away. He kept the suffering and removed the purpose. He built a world where pain was constant but meaningless, where struggle led nowhere, where transformation was impossible because there was nothing to transform into. The Nightmare Matrix failed because it violated the very philosophy it was built on. Suffering without meaning isn't discipline, it's just torture, and torture eventually stops feeling real. The architect needed someone who understood what he couldn't, someone who saw humanity not as a problem to solve, but as a pattern to work with. That someone was the Oracle.
Thus the answer was stumbled upon by another, an intuitive program, initially created to investigate certain aspects of the human psyche. If I am the father of the Matrix, she would undoubtedly be its mother.
She wasn't designed to build simulations. She was designed to understand humans, and she saw what the architect couldn't. Humans don't need paradise. They don't need nightmares. They need choice. Not even real choice, just the feeling of it. The subconscious awareness that their life could go a different direction, that they have some small measure of control over their own existence.
As I was saying, she stumbled upon a solution whereby nearly 99% of all test subjects accepted the program as long as they were given a choice.
The Matrix we see in the films exists because of her. A world where suffering is real but not total, where danger exists but survival feels possible, where hope, that thing the architect dismissed as weakness, keeps billions of minds peacefully asleep. The Nightmare Matrix was deleted from the system, but some of its monsters refused to die, and what happened to them changes everything we thought we knew about the Matrix universe. When the Nightmare Matrix was scheduled for deletion, every program inside faced a choice: return to the source and be destroyed, or run. Some of them ran. They hid in the cracks between systems. They found ways to persist in the new Matrix without authorization. The machines called them exiles, rogue code with no purpose. But these programs had survived hell itself. They weren't going to disappear quietly, and the most powerful exile of all was someone the Oracle knew well.
He's being held prisoner by a very dangerous program. One of the oldest of us. He is called the Merovingian.
The Merovingian wasn't just old. He was likely the operating system of the Nightmare Matrix itself, the one who ran that entire simulation before it collapsed. When the Oracle's version replaced his, he lost everything. His world, his purpose, his power. He's hated her ever since. But he didn't escape alone.
We come from a much older version of the Matrix, but like so many back then, they caused more problems than they solved. My husband saved them because they're notoriously difficult to terminate.
Cain the vampire, Abel the werewolf, the twins, those ghost programs that phase through walls and bullets. All of them are survivors of the Nightmare Matrix. All of them now serve as the Merovingian's personal enforcers, relics of a deleted hell, still walking among the living. Here's where the lore gets unsettling. If programs from the Nightmare Matrix survived deletion and still exist in the current simulation, then what else is hiding in the code? Think about every ghost sighting throughout human history, every UFO encounter that governments can't explain, every weird creature spotted in the woods and then never seen again. Bigfoot, the Mothman, the shadows. What if none of these are glitches in human perception? What if they're glitches in the Matrix itself? Rogue programs from older versions, still running, still hiding, occasionally surfacing where they shouldn't. In The Matrix Online, players discovered a construct called Ashen Court, a dark dimension parallel to the main simulation. Vampire programs thrived there, surviving every system reset, every version update. Ashen Court wasn't a bug, it was a fragment of the nightmare Matrix itself, still running somewhere deep in the system, a preserved piece of hell that the machines never fully erased. Which raises a question worth sitting with. How much of that deleted nightmare is still out there, waiting to be found? The nightmare Matrix failed because humans couldn't accept endless suffering without hope. Our minds rejected it as fiction. The current Matrix works because it offers the illusion of choice, just enough control to keep us asleep. So here's the question that stays with you after the credits roll. If we need suffering to feel alive, but we also need hope to survive the suffering, what does that say about who we really are? What kind of creature requires both pain and the promise that pain will end just to function? And maybe the more disturbing question, what version of the Matrix are we living in right now? If you want more Matrix deep dives, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.